You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. Football Fever with News Talk ZB's voice of football, Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen.
Yes, welcome into Football Fever. On a Monday, as we always produce Football Fever on a Monday. I've been away for a couple of weeks. The fort has been held admirably by Bonnie Jansen, obviously, and Michael Burgess. Thanks to you both for looking after things while I was away. Good to be back. How are you, Bonnie?
Oh, I'm not too bad, thanks, Piney. It's good to have you back though, because you are the voice of football in New Zealand, aren't you?
Well, that's what it said on the intro. So I guess we have to assume that's true. Look, it is good to be back to talk some really exciting times for both the Wellington Phoenix men and women. Should we kick straight into it with the men and women both playing at Go Media Mount Smart on Saturday, both getting victories? You were there in your capacity as on the ground MC. How was that?
Yeah, something like that. It was amazing. A really, really cool opportunity, and good to kind of be close up and watch the games from that perspective. But the Auckland crowd certainly got up for it, and yeah, it was a great day all round, as you know, and obviously the results came through.
So the early game was the men. Wellington Phoenix 1, Melbourne City 0. Alex Paulson continuing his outstanding start to the season, helping the Phoenix beat premiers from last year, Melbourne City 1-0. A number of saves, and then that penalty save to deny Jamie McLaren at the end. I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago when Ollie Sale announced that he was leaving the Wellington Phoenix. There was a bit of concern about whether Alex Paulson was ready to step up and become the number one. How good has Alex Paulson been?
Oh, just amazing. And I've been thinking about this morning, and he's keeping the Wellington Phoenix in these games. You know, you can tell the difference between an average keeper and a really good keeper, and who would have thought this young Kiwi who's growing up here is keeping our men in the competition. It's just exceptional to see, and I'm just so excited for him.
Yeah, and he seems to be, anyway, in the media opportunities I've seen and the way he's spoken, he seems to be, still very grounded, really, because, it's easy to pump a young player's tyres up, and there's a lot of hyperbole around about Alex Paulson being the best keeper in the league and that sort of thing. Look, it's early days, but he seems very, very grounded, and to me, feels like he's got a very high ceiling. He's still so young, and we know goalkeepers can often play into their mid to late 30s. He might have 15 years of top flight football ahead of him. His ceiling seems really high to me.
Oh, absolutely. And, as I mentioned before, he was kind of growing up in New Zealand as well, which is exciting to see that we can produce players like that. And the fact that he's grounded, I mean, you have to be, and it's hard to come by those kind of young players, but it is really exciting that Alex Paulson is, just thriving at the moment.
There's a lot of good keepers around at the moment. Alex Paulson was on the recent All Whites tour, didn't get a game. Michael Veld and Max Crocombe got the games over there. Ollie Sale wasn't on that trip. Then you can add in Jamie Searle, who's playing in the UK, Nick Sarnev, who's playing over there as well. There are a lot of good young Kiwi goalkeepers, challenging for international spots. But, Alex Paulson making every post a winner. No Oscar Zavada for Wellington on the weekend. That raised a few eyebrows as well in terms of where would the goals come from. Božidar Krajev scoring the goal that won the game from some really good build-up work involving Alex Rufer, Mohamed El Tay, and then David Ball providing the final pass in his 100th game. You obviously want Oscar Zavada there, but to beat Melbourne City without your main man, again, it's a feather in their cap, isn't it?
It's amazing. And, maybe it wasn't that pretty of a performance in the first half, especially they had a lot of chances, the Phoenix did, but they're getting the results, and, we'll take that. And, like we just mentioned, you need a good keeper at one end and you need finishers at the other. And if they can do that without Zavada, that's amazing. So to get a result like that at your home away from home, I guess, is what we're going to need to keep seeing this season.
Just a couple of other players I want to mention. I thought Scott Wootton and Finn Sermon, again, were excellent. They've forged a really good central defensive partnership already. The experience of Wootton, the youth and the athleticism and energy of Finn Sermon. Tim Payne, I mean, what about this? He played twice on that All Whites tour, and then, played against Greece and Ireland, jumps on a plane, gets back on the Friday, and on the Saturday, apparently Giancarlo Italiano, the coach, said to him, "Okay, Tim, what do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, I want to play. I'll give you as much as I can." He was still making runs up and down the right in the 90th minute.
Of course he was. He was in his hometown, wasn't he? But I understand that that Chiefy wasn't too happy the fact that he did play that many minutes over with the All Whites. But good on him for backing up that performance and pushing through. He's been a key player for the Knicks the last couple of years and still is. Yeah, Alex Rufer had another good game for me, and I thought Mohamed El Tay. He's a guy who, I know when he signed for the club, when the Phoenix lost Clayton Lewis and Steven Ugarkovic, they needed another number 6 to play alongside Alex Rufer. It's a different formation under Chiefy, but somebody to play in a defensive midfield role. And Mohamed El Tay arrived, and I don't know that there was a lot of hype around about him. A bit of he hadn't really had huge success at his former clubs, but I think he's been really good too. Just helps keep them ticking over. As I say, was involved in the goal. A guy who's, I don't know, they're all just playing really, really well at the moment. It's consistent performances across the board, and that's what we're going to need to keep seeing, and we're seeing that on the women's side now as well. And the Phoenix haven't been able to do this in the past, and it's been a lot of up and down results. So again, really promising result on the weekend. The fact that they can win against a team like Melbourne City and secure 3 points. You look at the table, and it has the Wellington Phoenix tucked in there in the giddy heights of second, only on goal difference behind Western Sydney Wanderers. 11 points from 5 games. Just to put that into some historical context for you, the Phoenix are notoriously slow starters in the A-League. In fact, they have been ever since the club has been around back in 2007. Just for context here, in their entire history, before this season, the earliest the Phoenix had ever got to 11 points was round 8. So it took them 8 games minimum in the previous 17 years to get to 11 points. They're there in 5 games this time around. So, look, again, it's early days. We're only a fifth of the way through the season. But, man, it's a lot nicer than looking at it in previous years where they kind of, scramble points together and end up they end up sort of battling for a place in the top 6 in the back half of the season. It's kind of relief. I mean, for you and I, we've followed the Phoenix right from the beginning, and they're finally here and competing. And we've seen them up in the playoffs before, but something about this season is different. And maybe it's the fact that Auckland A-League team announcement happened while you were away, and these Wellington teams want to make a statement. It's finally happening, and good on them for having this incredible start. So next up for the Wellington Phoenix men, they're away at Western United on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. New Zealand time kickoff. The Phoenix have been pretty conservative in their away games so far this season, famously or maybe infamously getting the 1-1 draw against Victory without actually having a shot on goal themselves. The own goal was their contribution on the score sheet that day. Do you think they might be a bit more attacking against Western United, the bottom side in the league, who've had a pretty terrible start to the season? Do you think they'll be a bit more attacking given that they've built this base, or do you expect them again to be conservative away from home? No, they're going to need to be more attacking, and Chiefy was pretty upset in the post-match press conference about that display and their lack of attacking in that last away game they had. So they're going to need to pick that up, and I think now that they're kind of settling in, the season's fully kind of properly underway now, they're going to need to start looking more on goal and continuing to make a statement each week. A very promising start for the Wellington Phoenix men.
Football fever.
Let's go to the women. They followed the men on to Mount Smart Stadium and followed them into the winners' circle, 2-1 over Perth Glory. That after falling 1-0 behind and being 1-0 behind at the break. Their 4th win of the season. They surpassed their total win tally from last season, just 6 games into this new campaign. Hope Breslin and Chloe Knott scoring the goals to keep Wellington in 3rd place on the women's ladder, off the back of a disappointing loss to Central Coast the previous week. How impressed were you with the way the women played on Saturday night?
Really impressed. And, we were talking about how good they had been and they'd had some a really good start to the season. But, I kind of, maybe it was a bit of pessimism, but I just, thought it was too good to be true. But the fact that they got that result and came from behind to beat top of the table Perth Glory, who have a really strong team this year, was very exciting to see. I was really happy for them.
No Macy Fraser. She was ruled out with illness, and unfortunately that illness has also ruled her out of what would have been her first venture into the Football Ferns. We'll get to that in a moment. But, Macy Fraser has been the name on everybody's lips in the first month or so of the season for Wellington Phoenix. When she was ruled out, I think people thought, that's not great. But I want to talk about Hope Breslin's finish for that goal. That is a really composed finish from her.
It was class, and it's a experience that these internationals, these visa players are bringing into the side this year, and the squad's really competitive, as we know. But the fact that she can finish a ball like that in that first touch, it was insane. It was very cool to see. And
Chloe Knott scoring the second, which proved to be the winner. Great energy from her. At the start of the season, there was perhaps a bit of doubt about what Chloe Knott's role to play in this team would be with Annalie Longo coming in, with Grace Wisniewski, who now, as we know, is ruled out with an injury, also being there. But yeah, Chloe I thought was excellent again. Mackenzie Barry and Marisa van der Meer at the back. We talked about Wootton and Sermon for the men. How key have Barry and van der Meer been for the women in their start to the season?
Oh, it's very exciting, and I just want to touch on Chloe Knott as well, because she needed that goal, she needed that performance with Annalie Longo coming back in that midfield spot. Obviously, Macy Fraser was away, and it helps the fact that Grace is now out for the season, but Chloe needs to keep performing to secure her spot in that midfield. But in terms of Mac and Marissa in the back line, just amazing. And I'm gutted for Macy that she missed out on the Ferns now, but the fact that Maurice's been called up in her place is it's really deserving. She's a bright young talent. She is.
Just before we move on to the Football Ferns, I had a question come up actually on Twitter over the weekend about Alyssa Wynnum, and we haven't seen Alyssa much, if at all, this season. We know that she burst onto the scene a couple of years ago and was highly touted. I was really excited to see what we might get to experience from Alyssa Wynnum, who seemed like a very a rare talent as far as our recent women's footballers are concerned. We haven't seen Alyssa Wynnum. Do you? What's your view on her role to play in this team? Will we see her again? What's the story?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know she was up in Auckland and she was training with the Knicks when I popped down to their session. But as I mentioned, this midfield is so competitive, right? We've got Kate Taylor in 6, and she's got a few Ferns caps under her belt. That position is a little bit niggly. I'm not sure if there's too many, there's not a lot of depth in the number 6, but in terms of the two attacking midfield roles, there's so many to pick from, and Alyssa Wynnum, it sucks that she's missing out, because we know she was the Macy Fraser last year, and she was the one that was being talked about. So I hope we get to see her soon, and the fact that they're starting to get results means maybe Paul Temple can have a play around with his squad a little bit more and test out new kind of variations. The same with Michaela Robertson, who went to their last Olympics with the Football Ferns. She's also not featured this year. So it's exciting that the Phoenix have some depth, but yeah, I'm not sure why she hasn't been picked at this point.
I feel like if anybody can get the best out of Alyssa Wynnum, it might be Paul Temple. He seems to, you talk to some of these players and they're all, effusive in their praise of what he's brought to the, to the setup, the way he's enabling these players. I think to myself, how exciting might it be to see Macy Fraser and Alyssa Wynnum in partnership in Wellington's midfield at some stage?
Oh, it would be incredible, and we know they're both so good on the ball, and it's an exciting prospect for the Phoenix. But yeah, I can't say what is going on there. She wasn't amongst the kind of players that missed out on the squad. I didn't see her at the game, whereas I saw some of the others there. So yeah, I hope we, you're right in the fact that Paul Temple can soon get the best out of her, and we see her kit up.
This is Football Fever.
Indeed it is. The Football Ferns play Colombia on Sunday at 10 and then next Wednesday, December the 6th at 9 in their latest internationals. There's no games for the A-League Women's this weekend because of this international window. Colombia are 22nd in the world. New Zealand are 26th. So by virtue of the rankings, these should be even contests. However, let's not forget that the Ferns lost 3-0 and 2-1 to Chile in September and they were 41st in the world. So it didn't matter that much back then. Colombia made the quarterfinals at the World Cup where they lost 2-1 to England. They beat Germany and South Korea in pool play. These will be really interesting and I would imagine pretty challenging contests for New Zealand on the weekend and then the Wednesday after.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm keen to hear your take on this, Piney. We were talking about it last week in the podcast, but the Ferns keep picking really tough opponents to play, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, on the one hand, they're playing these tough competitors. Colombia, they were the breakthrough team at the World Cup. They beat Germany, and they're going to be really hard for the Ferns, and so it's a good test. But at the same time, it's really hard for anyone to get behind the Ferns because they're not getting the results and they're having to constantly defend the whole time. So I don't know. What do you think? Is it good playing a tough opponent or not?
Well, I think playing games is the most important thing. So for that, you say, yes, well done. They've got games. So I'd love to see them play back here. I think, after the World Cup, I think most of us wanted to see the Football Ferns as soon as possible on home soil. We haven't had that opportunity yet.
No.
That'll have to come in the new year. But I don't mind the opponent. I still can't get my head around a couple of the selections. I know you spoke about this on the podcast last week. I still can't understand why CJ Bott is not there. One of our top three players, easily, if you wanted to rank our top female player, she's easily in the top three, if not right at the top. She's playing for Leicester in the top flight of women's football in the UK, fully committed. Jitka Klimkova's explanation for her not being there was a bit cryptic and fairly vague for me. I just can't understand why a Football Ferns side does not have CJ Bott in it.
Yeah, I mean, when she says there's some few things CJ needs to go and work on, I can't really think about what that is, off the top of my head, and it is a real shame because she is one of our best players, and hopefully it's just to clear her head a little bit ahead of what will be a huge year next year with the Olympics coming in, and yeah, I'm trying to be optimistic with it, but it is a massive loss.
On the other hand, there are debut call-ups for Sunderland midfielder Katie Kitching, Canberra United forward Ruby Nathan, and both Marisa Vandermeer and Mania Elliott get first call-ups as well off the back of a couple of injuries. Unfortunately, Macy Fraser, as we mentioned before, can't go because of this illness, but Marisa Vandermeer is there, so that's great for her. I kind of would like the Football Ferns to win a game of football in one of these two, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. And as I said before, it is going to be really tough. Colombia drew with the United States in the last window. So, in saying that, they then went on to have a 3-0 loss against them. But it is going to be really tough. But this side, Macy Fraser's not there anymore, and I really was excited to see her out there. But I'm excited about this squad. Yes, it's missing CJ as well, but there's a lot of young talent, and I really hope Jitka can get players on and not just, stick with the same lineup we've seen for much of the year. Yeah,
I don't think it'll happen, but it'll be quite cool to see Marisa Vandermeer, Mackenzie Barry and Kate Taylor play in that little triangle that they do for Wellington Phoenix.
You would like that, wouldn't you, Piney? Wellington Phoenix.
I love that.
You?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I like just play them all as far as I'm concerned.
Just put the whole team on.
Get them all out there. Get Brianna Edwards in goal as well. No, I don't know. I think Jitka Klimkova probably regards Kate Taylor as a centre back, but or a versatile player who can play anywhere across the back four. But yeah, I'm kind of like you. I would like to see some innovation as well from Jitka at some stage. If you're going to pick these players, then give them a crack. I mean, we know that there's no Annalie Longo on this tour. Rhea Percival is not there. Hannah Wilkinson is suspended after the red card she received in the last window. So there are opportunities there for players who haven't got a lot of caps, and this is where I would have loved to have seen Macy Fraser there, to get a bit of a go. Let's see how India Paige Riley goes. She's got 14 caps now, so she's starting to get a bit of experience in the international arena. Jackie Hand, I would love to see her recreate the form that we saw at the World Cup, and we'll talk more about her club situation in a moment. I hope there's some innovation around selection on this tour.
Yeah, I hope to see as well Grace Jarley lead the line, and we've wanted to see her in that number 9 position. She's been on form for Perth Glory. She didn't score in the weekend up in Auckland, but she's been a real star there in the A-League this season. And also Hannah Blake as well. She's performing for Adelaide. She missed out on the World Cup. And I think, the likes of her, Jackie, Grace, Indy, as you mentioned, it's an exciting team.
Yep, I look forward to seeing how they go against Colombia in these 2 matches on Saturday morning and then again the following Wednesday morning.
This is Football Fever.
Let's just finish with a bit of a quick wrap on Kiwis playing overseas. Max Mutter, I was delighted to see him score his first goal for Shrewsbury Town over the weekend. His mum was in the crowd as well, which was terrific to see. So well done to Max Mutter. I'd love to see him continue to score goals. He and Ben Wayne feel to me as though they're the heir apparents, if you like, to Chris Wood. I mean, Chris Wood can't go on forever in an all-white shirt. I think we'll see him at the next World Cup in 2026. But beyond that, I'm not sure, what the length of his career will be, and what a career it's been, just quietly. But Max Mutter is one who might take over leading the line for New Zealand, so good to see him in goal-scoring action. James McGarry back in action for Aberdeen this morning after 2 months off with an injury which kept him out of the most recent All Whites tour. There's a few pretenders to the backup to Libby Kakachi, the likes of Sam Sutton, Francis de Vries has been used there, Dalton Wilkins. Lucas Kelly-Heald might have something to say about that in the years to come, but James McGarry feels to me like a player who, on his day, is a very, very competent left back, both defensively and going forward. So I'd love to see him back in the All Whites mix. Katie Bowen looks well entrenched in Inter Milan's side, a 1-0 win in the Milan derby over the weekend. And Jackie Hand, off contract, Bonnie, at her Finnish club. So without a club, I mean, I'm sure the Phoenix would love to have her, but she might be keener to stay in Europe. We know what a good World Cup she had. She'll end up somewhere soon, won't she?
I'm hoping Arsenal, because that's my club. I'd love to see her.
No bias here.
There.
No bias here.
But I'm interested to see where Jackie goes. I saw that news over the weekend, and it's exciting. Yeah, you'd think she's maybe a little bit beyond the A-League now. I don't know if that's bad to say, but yeah, hopefully she stays in Europe and continues to get some experience over there, because she was a star at the World Cup, and she's going to be the next big thing, I reckon. Yeah, well, putting my money on it.
No, look, I totally agree. I thought she was terrific. Well, she was New Zealand's probably, her and Katie Bowen were New Zealand's best players at the Women's World Cup. A couple of internationals against Colombia to stake a claim and to get the scouts watching. Perhaps I'm sure Jackie Hand has an agent who is is making contact with clubs and show those clubs some highlights of what she did at the World Cup, and I'm sure there'll be offers on the table for Jackie Hand in the not too distant future. So we look forward to seeing where she ends up. Just before we go today, congratulations to the Wellington Olympic men's side and the Auckland United women's side on their National League victories at Mount Smart over the weekend. Well done to them on finishing top of the tree in the respective National League competitions. Heaps of positive football news around at the moment, Bonnie, isn't there?
Yeah, you left your precious Wellington Phoenix in good hands, and they got the job done, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah, it's exciting, but I am excited for this Auckland A-League team. You missed that announcement, and it's going to be an exciting next few years of football. I've got a good feeling about it.
Oh, look, I do too. Yeah, you're right. I was away when this all happened, and I know you and Burge covered it off on the podcast a week ago. But I'm excited too. The more footballers playing professional football in New Zealand, both male and female, the better. If there's a third team down the track somewhere in Christchurch, and Andrew Pragnell has talked about that as a possibility, then bring it on. The more pathways there are for our young players, the better. And I think Wellington Phoenix have worked it out, and I'm not sure what Auckland's strategy will be, but Wellington Phoenix have worked it out that they are a shop window. They are a place for young Kiwi footballers to I guess, find their feet in the professional game, get themselves out there and make their next move if that's what they want to do. And when Ben Old was re-signed the other day, that's exactly what Giancarlo Italiano said. He said, well, we're here to provide Ben Old with a launching pad for him to go further afield if that's what he wants. And if the Auckland franchise are the same, then they may have strategy around marquee players and things like that. But the fact remains they're going to have some Kiwis in there. So the more the better. The more the better for me.
Yeah, no, it is very exciting, and as I was emceeing the Wellington Phoenix on Saturday, I could see the new Auckland CEO up in the VIP box, and he was scouting Wellington Phoenix and how they run things. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting to have two rival teams, and I'm looking forward to that New Zealand Derby for sure.
Yeah, can't wait for the first one. That's Football Fever for today. We're back next Monday with a fresh episode. They drop around about early afternoon every Monday, as long as we get all of our ducks in a row. Enjoy your week, Bonnie. We'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Piney. See ya.
Football Fever with Jason Pine and Bonnie Jansen. For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday, or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.